Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I am your host, Eva Andrade, and I'm here with my co-host, Marcus Oshiro, and special guest, Bob McDermott. And we're going to be talking about a very heartbreaking and sobering event, and that's the shooting of activist Charlie Kirk. You know, no matter where we stand politically, violence like this shakes all of us to the very core. What's happening in our society? And how should the people of faith respond? I'm joined today by two men who are very knowledgeable about political life. They're both retired lawmakers. And together we're going to talk about civility, we're going to talk about conscience, and what it means to stand firm in our belief with strength, kindness, and aloha. So let's chat about that. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Me, thank you, Eva. Good to see my old friend Marcus.
Hey, Bob.
People don't know we are actually friends. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to. I don't
know
want
that. Come on,
I'll ruin your
I have a reputation to maintain.
I know you do.
This is kind of taking me back to the old days. I remember this. You know, you both are very familiar with the old days. Remember how good the floor speeches used to be when there were 19 of you?
Yes. Well,
was it 19 or 17?
So the most we got was 20 because Leha Uisa switched parties over the summer, so we had crested at 20.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the next election, Governor Lingle ran for governor, and everyone's focus shifted to her race. Right. And so the marginal House candidates that we had lost. And then good guys like Pendleton just got outspent big time by independent expenditures.
Well, I was going to say the good old days, but I'll refrain from that.
We were younger.
The floor debates were fantastic.
And thanks to you guys, we learned the House rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in case our listeners and viewers don't know, Bob is a Republican and Marcus is a Democrat. And Marcus was in the state legislature for over 20 years. And Bob, weren't you in there over 20 years?
16. Okay, so I broke in time. I started 96 to 202 and then 2013 or 2012 to 22.
Okay, and what districts did you represent?
So initially, Aiea by the stadium, Foster Village, Aliamanu, as for 6 years. And then I was out for 10 years. And actually, Gene asked me to run. Kimberly was, when a politician says people are asking me to run, this is the only person, I think you should run. I think so too. So when they say people are asking me to run, Marcus knows, that's why he's laughing. Yeah. The only person who asks you is yourself. And but Gene actually called me. I said, I got to get permission from my boss. And he gave it. And, they said it was a Republican district, but I got halfway through it. And I said, look, where are all the white people? There's no Republican Caucasians here, right? And it's true. I mean, I'm being honest, right? Because you said it's a Republican district. And I went door to door and said, where are they? Well, it turns out they're military and they don't vote in the election. So if you go to Campbell High School, they're all local kids, or they look like my kids, Hapaholi mix. And but it has voted center right, as the whole West Side has in the last 10 years.
It's a big change.
Right? It's amazing. And places that used to be a Republican stronghold, like Kailua, that was Fosse country back in the day, you remember. And and Hawaii Kai, that was Republican. Yeah. But I see the more money you make, this is true. During same-sex marriage, Gene and I talked who should take the lead. Nobody wanted either of us to take the lead, by the way.
Well, for those of us that have been in the back, nobody wanted to take the lead. Because that puts you right in the smack center of the target.
But I told Gene, I said, well, Gene, they have more BMWs in Hawaii Kai than ever beach, so I'll take it, which is true. And he said, okay. Yeah. But interesting, a couple of the faith leaders came to me early on, and not Calvary Chapel or our church either, came to me and said, hey, Bob, we appreciate what you're doing. And, but I said, I get it. This is not the face that's made for mass marketing. I understand that. But I'm okay with it. But if you want to have someone else, go ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to do it. Of course.
Well, when I always tell
Yeah.
people when Jesus calls, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So we all maybe don't feel sometimes like we're the ones that should be doing it.
But I will, just going back to that for a moment, because this is a spiritual program. I happened to be in my office that day. Oberfeld fell.
Yeah, Obergefell. Yeah.
He knows all the legal cases.
Yeah,
I don't know. And as I was sitting there, I happened to be on my computer, Marcus, and all of a sudden I'm getting emails. The decision just hit CNN, right? All of a sudden, click, 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 click. Past marriage equality now. Click, 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 click. And I could feel a dark cloud descend over the building. I did. And I said, oh, shit. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it happened.
A lot of people do not remember that when Neil Abercrombie signed the marriage law, there were lightning strikes.
Oh, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
there were.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, okay, I realize that some people watch are going to say that was just coincidental, but for those of us that are people of faith,
Things happen.
well, okay, so speaking of things happen, I really want, because I think that Bob, with you being a Republican and Marcus, you being a Democrat, I really want to peel off some of the layers of what's happening across the country right now in regards to the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And so let's start with this, and we'll start with you, Bob, since you're our guest. You know, what was your first thought when you heard about the shooting?
Well, I saw it. I was watching it actually live. I'm retired now, so I happened to be watching it. And I think it was live. Yeah, it was live. Because I watch Real America's Voice, right? And so they always carry those sorts of things live. And as soon as I saw, no, actually I didn't see it live. I saw that on X. I saw the crayon, the Krylon, he got shot. So I went to X and I saw the most graphic video, obviously. And I knew immediately, I mean, I'm not clairvoyant or anything, the bullet, the amount of blood coming out said, it was his carotid artery was blown away, I guess. And so there's no way you can put your hand on, but it'll bleed out internally, right? And then, so being an old Marine, you know a little bit about ballistics, very little, but you saw the entrance wound was so big, so you knew it hit something, right? Because normally, even a 30-06, it'd be a small entrance wound. So it hit something. Now we find out it hit his vest, and it sprawls. So when it goes in, it creates this big hole. But then, as I was telling Marcus earlier, it keeps going, and it goes up into the brain, right? And now it's fragments everywhere. I'm guessing he was probably paralyzed instantly, and he was dead before he left the stage. There's no way you can survive a shot like that. So, of course, you don't know that in your moment. You're trying everything to save his life. But what I thought about it, shock and immediate thoughts for his family, his wife and children, because at the end of the day, these are real people. And it was, and I cried several times. Get a tear in my eye, and then you would see something with a picture of his wife and children, or those memes where he's running to heaven.
Yeah.
I got teary-eyed. I didn't weep, but my eyes got tears. I had to wipe them away because it was so sad. He's so young. My sons are older than him. Yeah.
Marcus?
Yeah, I had the same reaction. This total shock. Like, oh my God, what happens? Why is this happening? He's 31 years old. He's the voice of a lot of young college-age people. He's been out there practicing his First Amendment rights throughout the pandemic, when the lockdowns. That's when I started tuning into this guy. Married, 2 kids. And in the prime of his life, shot down in a public forum like that. Again, starting off a tour of college campuses to encourage discussion, debate,
dialogue,
conversation, relationships. I mean, all the things we need, Bob. Really, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And to be, cut down,
a lot of it, you can, no matter who's talking, right? You have the Republicans saying that it's the left, and then you have the left saying, well, it's the right, it's the right, it's the right. Is that shaping these kind of acts, or is it the other way around?
Well, I don't think.
Are these acts shaping?
If I go first,
Yeah.
I don't think any party has a lock on crazies. So we got crazies both on left and right. But I would say this to my dear friend, who I love, and I really mean it, but in a manly way.
Stay tuned for our next show. We're going to be talking about that.
Anyway, but I think a challenge with the very left, and we're not talking liberals, who, as opposed to the liberals of yesterday are not the left of today. Liberals and conservatives always disagree. Oh, how much taxes? 38.5? No, 37. No, that's outrageous. Menini kind of tax rate stuff. The issue now, I don't believe the extreme left believes in God. I think there's a moral vacuum on that side. And it's not good guys like Marcus and his generation or my generation. But I think there's an abandonment of absolute truth and a belief in a higher being, someone greater than us, a creator. I don't care what you call him, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, whatever your faith, your tradition is, right? I think that's the problem. I don't think these leftists believe in a greater being than themselves. I think they want to be God. And certainly dealing with the trans issue, which we'll talk because it's part of this, what we know. I think that's the problem. You're chomping at the bit.
I gotta agree with Bob. They don't have the monopoly on the crazies. The Democrats don't have the monopoly either.
There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, no, and this is not a gun rights issue either.
Right.
It's a bolt action.
Yeah.
Hunting rifle.
Yeah, hunting rifle, legitimate. I've debated the issue here locally, Hawaii Rifle Association. It's legitimate. Hunting. I just watched the show the other night dealing with Maui Nui. Hunting a deer, providing food for people of Maui and shipping it out of state. People on Niihau raising, African beasts out there for food, but harvesting them with rifles. So it's not a rifle issue. It's not a Democrat R issue. The guy is crazy. I'll say that. That's a legal term, right? Something was wrong with this person.
Well, and that, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to the heart of, right? Because we've all been working in politics for many years, all of us have. And there seems to be a difference in the way people are treating each other today. Because people didn't agree back when we were fighting same-sex marriage, but there was still at least a modicum of respect. I'm not seeing that anymore.
Yeah, I think the problem we have today in our country, it starts from the top, works its way down to the states, to county councils, is this respect of each other's opinion and civility. This just basic civics, sit across each other, D's and R's and L's and what have you, and have that discussion, open discussion, honest discussion. Yeah. Bob, you and I used to have that, right? You and I, and Eugene, and Mark Moses.
But I'm laughing because it was enjoyable, and we have good memories.
Well, we do. I'm there at Cynthia Thielen holding a microphone. She's pointing at me. I'm pointing back at her.
Yeah. On the tax issues, right, which is definitely where you see a lot of difference between Democrats and Republicans. You two both did floor speeches a lot of times, and a lot of times there would be. It almost seemed like there was angst, but it really wasn't, because there really was respect, because we would see this. As soon as the break happened, you two would go up and shake hands or talk or whatever. Yeah. But we knew that you were fighting for something that you deeply, deeply held and believe, And I think that's where it goes back to the point you said, we're missing that connection that keeps us civil. And that's our moral.
Go ahead, you want to say something?
No.
If we dwell on this particular case with Kirk, and at the time of the filming, we're about a week later, right? So we kind of know, We know that there was a trans person involved, and extremely rare, and indeed a real medical condition. If you listen to Miriam Grossman, these people really feel like they're in a wrong body, right? But it was so small, so small. Now, how do you separate these people from the people who are doing it as a social behavior, right? To be cool. And then when you pump these kids, male or female, full of cross-sex hormones, now you've already implied to them that there's no God, because you're telling them, yeah, they could be born in the wrong body and they can be whatever they want. So the rules don't apply to me. You can be whatever you want, and don't let your parents tell you otherwise. That's what we tell them in the schools. I know it because I've reviewed every sex ed program. Anyway, so you pump them full of these drugs, and then in addition to the cross-sex drugs, they get behavior modification drugs, right? SSR or RSI, what are they? SRIs? You know what I'm talking about? Benzenes and all that.
Right.
Antidepressants. So they got all this chemical, artificial stuff in their body, and you throw in puberty blockers. I mean, we're experimenting on these kids. There are no placebo-based long-term studies on any of this stuff they're using these drugs for with regard to the kids. And it's not what they were intended for, obviously. And that plays a role into it. So you have physiological, and then you have emotional and spiritual. We're here more on the spiritual level, and that's where I'm coming from. Hey, so when you tell them, no, you're wrong. You know, Marcus, in our state, if I have a son who comes to me and says, Dad, I'm not sure if I'm a girl or a boy. And he's struggling, genuinely struggling with that. And I said, okay, son, you know how I feel, but I love you no matter what. So
I already know where you're going with this. We're going to talk about our licensed therapists, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to take you to the best child psychiatrist, pediatric specialist, a giant in the industry, Dr. Miriam Grossman, or whoever it is.
Right.
The best in Hawaii. You go there. This is my son, Johnny. He's kind of the other one. That guy, that psychiatrist, that
has to affirm.
Can't tell him, Johnny, you're really a boy. You can't tell him that. He'll lose his license. Anyway.
Well, we definitely want to hold some of the good discussion for our next show. So we'll make sure.
Sorry about that.
No, it's really good. Marcus, Bob brings up a really good point, and I'd love to give your thoughts on this. So the shooter's father was the one that ultimately turned him in.
That's correct.
Can you imagine, a parent who has to make that decision? I know you talked a couple of shows about the Lord didn't bless you with children, but can you imagine?
Yeah. I think the father understood because of his law enforcement experience and background. Once he identified, he saw that video clip, and look, could be our son. Brought his wife and said, "Could be our son. Call him." So they called him, and they went back and forth. Send me a picture of the rifle. I want to see the picture of the rifle. And then what turns out is that's grandfather's
hunting
rifle from way back when. That's an heirloom for the family, right? But to do that was, I'm going to bear responsibility for that. I think the father even resigned from his service. I think he was a law enforcement officer, maybe a sheriff.
Yeah. And
he resigned because he took the blame and fault as a father of not raising his son properly. I mean, that's what a lot of local families would do. I mean,
well, I think he did raise him properly. It's when he got to college, apparently. That's what we're learning. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's what happens in college, right? That's when you're an adult, you're 18 years old, you're an adult, make choices, you go there, you hang out with different kind of people, you get exposed to this gender-affirming kind of concept.
And that's the real question, right? Is what they're learning in the college campuses today, right?
I have no idea.
That's what they're talking about.
It's probably not good though.
Are they being,
Well, Charlie Kirk never went to school.
Yeah.
Never went to college, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've always admired him. Self-taught, self-made, Renaissance man, well-read, well-educated. I mean, articulate. Logical, reasonable, rational, and he loved people. I believe, heart and soul, the guy really was a believer, true believer.
He really did.
He walked the talk, right?
But isn't it interesting how you contrast the father reporting the son to what happened on the bus?
I'm glad you brought that up because that poor girl. This goes back to gun control. Guy didn't have a gun, but he had a little knife or whatever.
Yeah.
It just took her out.
Yeah.
And so I think not just in politics, but in our society in general, probably about 1/3 of the people have turned their back on God, and they don't believe anymore. And that's the problem, because if you don't believe in God, then we share no common moral code.
What's the idea of even before that, Bob? It's the whole idea of life is precious, life is important.
Yes.
So whether you're a Buddhist or Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian, or what have you, there's a basic understanding premise.
Well,
human life is sacred. Human life is precious.
I agree. We believe that in the West, the Western world. But if you go over to, India or, Afghanistan and so the globalization plays into that a little bit, but I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. But in some parts of the world, they don't view life at all precious.
So what I want to do is, because, as is always the case, we're starting to wind down on time. But what I want to do is I really want to focus on the fact that you are a Republican and you are a Democrat. So I'm going to start with you, Marcus.
Yeah.
From a Democratic perspective, how do we condemn violence without excusing the climate of anger that fuels it?
I come from the perspective that, law, we're a nation of law, it's not of man. And it needs to be applied evenly across the board, fairly, to all people. And that's the basic thought here for this individual. Give him all the due process rights, entitlements under the Constitution, but prosecute the heck out of that case to the best of your ability. And then the idea, and my belief is this: justice will prevail.
Marcus, what about the co-conspirators, the alleged potential co-conspirators on this Discord?
There might be others who were involved. They're investigating that before the event, during the event, when he was moving along. Right.
What do you call that legally? Accessory? If you're not actually planning, but you know about
Could
it.
be a co-conspirator.
You're encouraging.
You don't know. There's not enough facts disclosed right now.
Right.
Whether they're involved in that, supporting, encouraging, concealing. We don't know that, right? But
we don't.
But we know the principle. This individual will be charged. And again, going back to the fullest extent of the law, give him all the due process rights he's entitled to. That's fair. That's understood. We do that in all cases.
And we really shouldn't care whether someone is a Democrat or Republican. All people should be treated fairly.
It doesn't matter
in a situation.
And I think that's a concern, that you have a seasoned state committed professional law enforcement prosecutor who's going to do the best job that he and his team can do. That's what we hope for.
Okay, so Bob, from a Republican perspective now, how do we call for justice while also calling for compassion and restraint?
Well, I think you see it already in the responses. Prayer vigils breaking out everywhere. And this isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a left first, in my view, everybody else. I go back to the George Floyd thing, that, right? Riots the whole summer, the summer of love, riots everywhere. I understand. When I first saw that video, I'm watching it, and I'm like, get off the guy, man. Get your knee off his neck. Well, more's come out about that. I still didn't think that was the right way to go. But he actually died from an overdose of fentanyl is why he died, because he had drugs on him. They threw him in his mouth, right? But the left tends to break things and riot. And the right, I mean, they bring up January 6th, but I believe that was either an entrapment or inside job or something like that. In any case, they should have accepted the 10,000 National Guard that Trump had wanted to put there. But we pray. We have vigils. The prayer vigils and that's what brings tears to mind. The acknowledgement that there is God. Charlie's gone. We can't do anything, but we can pray to the Almighty. That's the only tool we have in a case like that.
So here's the question, and this is for both of you, that could cause the problems. This is going to give me the bad emails. But is there ever a time to riot?
I don't see that. I can't see that. I mean, there there are laws in place. There's a constitution. There's ways that we as a society can resolve our differences, as vigorous and far apart as they might be. There is no need for violence. I think violence is actually revelatory as to failure of us as a society to restrain ourselves and abandon our constitutional principles and our truly human beliefs. I can't see any violence, any riot. That should never occur. I mean,
Mark, I'm laughing now because we fought like the Dickens for years and years, but we never, when the gavel went down, we never thought, okay, I'm going to meet him out in the parking lot.
in the garage, right.
Well, to be fair, the closest that I've seen here in Hawaii, the Republicans get close to rioting was during the lockdown and COVID. There was a lot of angry people that were showing up and with pots and pans.
So, like I said, we don't.
But what? How do we define riot? I guess, right?
I didn't condone any of that activity in front of the governor's mansion and some of the things that was.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That was.
There are too many families that live in that area and I know because I had a daughter that had colic, and if she had just gotten to sleep and they were mad at the governor and started doing pots and pans, I would have not been very Christian.
Oh wow! I didn't know you lived over there.
Well, no, I didn't. But I mean, but in that area, there are condominiums or whatnot. So it's like you need to raise your voice, and we tell people, right? You need to raise your voice.
There is a set of rules in place. We used to debate, and we know what the rules are. So we would execute our game plan within the rules, and the key is you have to have one more vote than the other guy. And we always knew we were going to lose. But we didn't get, we'd make him angry. We'd do things like I make a motion to recommit on the previous measure that I voted for. And he'd 2 a.m, he's losing his mind.
So we only have a minute left on the show. So just quickly, both of you, what's the final thought that you want to leave with people about this? Other than the fact that we're sending our love and aloha out to Charlie's family, his wife Erica, and their 2 kids.
God is the answer. God is the answer to all this, Pilikia.
I got to echo that with Brother Bob here. God has a plan and purpose for all of our lives, and even the decision for Charlie Kirk and his family, there's a purpose. There's a rhyme and reason to all of this. Mm-hmm. As sad as it might be, God is in control.
God stuffed a whole lifetime into that guy's 31 years. I mean, he didn't get to see his grandkids or anything like that, but a whole lifetime of experience in 31 years.
Yeah. And the rise of the people that are joining Turning Point and the new chapters. His legacy is going to continue to grow.
And his continued praise of Jesus and acknowledgement of that in every setting he could. That was amazing.
And there is no better way to end than on that note. Jesus should be the reason that we do everything that we do. And we continue to bring his gospel message out into every act that we have in public. And that should be our final message. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video. And stick around because we're not done with our conversation with Bob McDermott and Marcus Oshiro. So we'll see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.